buddies, paratroopers, and welcome back to the Enduring Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, retired Army Staff Sergeant Kevin Kidder. Sometimes the best conversations come from reconnecting with people who knew you before you knew who you were becoming. That's what today's episode is, a genuine catch up with someone from my early days in the Army and a look at how life has unfolded since. Her name is Pauleen Hope, and this conversation is real, honest, and powerful. We talk about faith, growth, sobriety, unemployment, and what it actually looks like to rebuild your life when things don't go the way you planned. This isn't a highlight reel. It's a real life catch up between two people who've lived, shared similar milestones, and learned some lessons the hard way. If you've ever felt stuck, uncertain, or like you're starting over, I think this episode is really going to resonate with you. Here's my conversation with Pauleen. Let's get into it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, today's a very exciting episode for me. This is a blast from the past. I have a friend and former battle buddy from my very first duty station at Fort Lewis, Washington. Please help me welcome Pauleen Chen. Thank you for coming on.
Hi, how are you, Kidder?
I am amazing. Thank you for agreeing to do this. As things happen, as I've mentioned several times on the podcast, a lot of this has just been catching up and reconnecting with people, which has been incredible. We touched base, 2 months ago now in November.
Yeah.
You sent me a screenshot of the podcast. Like, is this you? I was like, yeah. And you were very open and forward and like, hey, I think this is great. I want to share it with people. And I floated the idea of you coming on, and you're like, okay, yeah, I have some stuff I'd like to share. And then I think that'd be okay. So 1, thank you for agreeing. 2, for reaching out. And 3, for finally both of us having the time in our schedules to make this happen.
Yeah, of course. I am very excited.
I think this is going to be a phenomenal episode. You're an incredible human being. And I think what you have to share is just going to be what a lot of us need to hear. And again, just so grateful to have you here. I don't have a particular story. I have my one memory that comes to mind is your Nissan Xterra.
Oh my God.
You had the Nissan Xterra, which is like everywhere, the early 2000s. I thought it was just a dope car. And I was working one of the gates. And this is what I loved about our company and our platoons, because we were doing gate shift. And, we right outside the base was your typical payday loans and restaurants. And if you were on mids, you were guaranteed to have somebody bring you some food. Pizza, or if it was the Dollar Walk or whatever, but like we took care of each other. I just remember you came in one night and you're like, oh, here's a pizza. And I was like, oh man, you're the best. Thank you so much. Like, but that's just what it was. Like our platoon was amazing. I think we were brought up right as human beings, and certainly in the Army where we learned to take care of each other. And been 24
Easy
years
now.
since then now. So
Easy.
I remember you bringing me pizza. But that's just who you are, and I just remember that fondly.
Oh, thank you so much. Wow, 20 something years ago. That was a long time ago.
Right.
Yeah, and we were so young though, Kidder. I joined when I was 19.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I was probably, if you remember the Xterra, barely 21. I was barely 21, and we're still not mature at 21.
No.
We sure as hell think we are. So, but it was your typical, and I got that Xterra right after Kosovo, and I was like a 30K millionaire. Thought I was like living the life. You know how it is. I got promoted. I was like, yeah, I'm in E4 Mafia. I make 25 grand a year. I don't know how much I made back then. So.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I'm getting a bomb ass car. Actually, speaking of cars, I remember you getting a what is it that Fast and Furious?
Oh, yeah, the Eclipse.
Yeah. God,
yeah. Dustin was my he was my
yeah.
car salesman. I bought it from him after he got out. That's funny.
Everybody bought a car from him.
Right?
So.
Oh my God, so funny. All right, so as you know, during the initial part here on the podcast, I'm going to read you a question out loud. It comes from the book 365 Questions to Get to Know Yourself and Your Team Better. last April, I was lucky enough to attend a conference in Los Angeles. The very first breakout session that I went to was hosted by Brett Ledbetter and Ashley Adamson. Brett Ledbetter is a mental performance coach, and he works with athletes. Most notably, that I can recall, are Paige Beckers and Caitlin Clark. And the seminar, the breakout session, was the art of asking better questions. And at the end, he got to plug his new book. And his advice was, whenever you meet with a client, flip open to a page, ask them a question that's thought provoking, because you don't want to just, whatever your profession is, you don't want to just like do the mundane. And this is how you build a better rapport. And I love it. And I've taken my own, and this is how I like to open the show, because I do send outlines of, kind of how the structure of the conversation is going to go. Because having been on other podcasts, if I'm not prepared, I feel like an idiot. And I don't ever want anyone coming on here to feel apprehensive. So you gave me your number. Your number was 6'7", and if you're a parent, I'm sure you just got triggered. That's okay. You'll get over it. But yeah, so first time hearing this question for you. What would your future self ask your current self to change about your life?
Oh my gosh. I
Hmm.
feel like my future self would have so many questions, but if I was to pick one, what would my future self ask my current self today what I would change? I probably would say, outside of like the usual stuff like your diet and like your exercise, I would probably change more of just my patience.
Mm,
In the military, when we first get in, you have no other choice but to be patient, right? You're going through you're waiting forever just to get something done, or God forbid, you're just sitting around waiting for that last promotion. But I feel like once I got out of the military, just trying to you get back into the civilian world, go back into the civilian workforce. People aren't very patient, and you start to kind of pick up their habits. You start to become like a civilian. I hate to say it, but where you're like, okay, you start to let loose, and it's just a little bit, less structure. And I feel like I've been working on that, just kind of take things a little bit slower. Being less reactive is
mm,
something that I've been working on because I think a lot of people, especially nowadays with what's going on in today's world, they're very quick to speak without
yeah,
thinking. And now I am currently practicing, and it is something that I'm working on, but I take the time to kind of process everything first before I speak. I think that's what my future self would tell myself today.
I love that.
And yeah,
Yeah, I'm in a season right now where God is definitely making me learn patience.
yeah,
That's not a skill or a virtue I've ever been very
yeah.
good at practicing. But I'm certainly in a season where I need to, and I can appreciate that. And it humbles me quite a bit, but it's nice to know I'm not the only one.
No, you're not the only one. I feel like a lot of people are going through the same thing that, you and I are going through. And it's just, there's so much that goes on in life. And with patience comes to, you got to slow down a little bit.
Hmm.
And, um, I've been laid off for about a year. And that really forced me to kind of slow down and really think about what's going on, like just kind of check in with yourself,
Yeah,
and then just it really humbles you, and it just kind of, you just kind of look things in a different lens when you see everything going by so fast. And sometimes you're like, holy shit, I was right in the fast lane this whole entire time,
right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love that. And we're definitely going to get to this season of life, but I want the listeners to get to know you a little bit.
sure.
Where did you grow up? What was life like before the army?
Yeah. So I grew up in Seattle, Washington, born and raised. My parents are immigrants, and so they immigrated over here in the late 70s. Uh, I'm the oldest of three. And when we grew up, my parents were very hardworking. So we were poor. They came over here through our sponsors, which would be like my white grandparents, I guess. So my grandma and grandpa Cobb and my grandma and grandpa LaPlante, they've all passed, but They were missionaries, and so they helped my parents. They helped my parents to get over here, and my parents, they found the Lord, came over here, and just started life over here. So without speaking any English, they had to go relearn, some skills to get a job, and also learn how to speak English. And English would be their third language. And then they had me, and so growing up in a generational household, I had my parents and my grandparents and my aunt, and we lived in this little apartment in South Seattle in Rainier Beach, and that area was that whole community was full of immigrant families. So there was a lot of just Vietnamese, Cambodian kids, and the Samoans are like right down the road. So we grew up I think for my parents, it was good for them because even though they all came from different countries and stuff, they were going through the same thing of like, beginning this new life and having that community to learn how to like assimilate to the American culture together. So my parents did, what they could, and I came from a very loving home. Yeah, that's that was it before the military. So we went to church, and um, I my brother came along 4 years later, and I, eventually accepted him because I was the oldest. And then my youngest brother came 4 years after that, so we're all 4 years apart. Going back with patience, I did have to learn patience as a child.
Hmm.
Because my brother is special needs, so he is autistic and he needs care, and he is always going to need care for the rest of his life. So, and I think something that, like, I'm not a parent myself, but for my parents, and especially during that time, to have a child that is special needs,
Hmm.
that's a lot of patience, and you really need to have, your community with you to help you
Absolutely.
out. And that was the time that was like in the time frame of like the early 90s where autism or any type of disability that you had, I wouldn't say it was looked down upon. I would just say that there wasn't enough research. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was probably the first time it was socially acceptable and people were leaning forward into it. My youngest brother has Down syndrome, and I remember that. And my dad and former stepmom, they were champions for him and have been his whole
Yeah,
life. He went to the same high school me and my other brother did. He graduated
yeah,
with a better GPA. He just had a little bit more time and help when it came to tests. They didn't change the standards for him. Um,
that's good.
but they,
Yeah.
they raised him to be independent, and he and my brother
Hmm.
lived together. They're best friends. Um, but yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean.
I remember, what's funny is I remember your little brother. So I think your family came to visit us in DC.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah. And I met your brother, and he was very shy. So I said hi to him, and he was very shy. So I don't know how old he was back then. I mean, we were like in our early 20s, so I don't know how
yeah. I
he
mean,
was
maybe
young.
15.
Yeah, I was like, he was a kid.
Yeah,
So he was young. Yeah.
good
And he was
memory.
really, I just remember that. Yeah. I was like, oh my gosh, I remember your brother. Yeah. Yeah. So the struggles that our parents went through. And, I really did. They tried their best to give their attention to all their children, but obviously, more of the attention had to go to my youngest brother because, he really needed it. Yeah.
So, what kind of things did you do, girl? Were you a reader? Were you a jock? Were you a troublemaker?
Yeah. Yeah. That's no and yes. Didn't play any sports. I was the least athletic person. So I think it was a major shock when I told my friends I was going to go enlist in the army, because I like never did any type of physical activity. I mean, I took PE in high school and stuff, but like they made us run the track, and I would like hide behind the big mats and like carry a Sharpie and be like, yeah, I did run 4 laps. I was just towards the teenage years, I was a troublemaker. So I was You're a teen, you're seeking validation, you're trying to find, a group of people, which luckily I I, intermingled with a bunch of different groups,
Hmm.
like with jocks and the popular kids and, what would now be called the nerds. But then if I was to go back, I'd be like, I would totally hang out with you guys. So, but it's the pressures of high school.
Yeah.
So, but that was, yeah, I just was your typical teenager. And, the days before cell phones, my dad was yelling at me using the phone all day because,
Mm,
I would have we didn't have a cordless phone. We had one of those big long ones with a cord. You know what I'm
yeah.
talking about? Yeah. And I would just haul that, haul the phone in my room, shut the door, and my dad would like pick up the phone, yell at me, and then I'm embarrassed. But yeah, typical teenager stuff.
I love that.
Yeah.
So growing up in Emerald City and then you go
Mhm.
into the military, what led you to join?
So I didn't join right after high school. I actually went to college for 1 year, and in school, dude, I was just a fuck up. You know what I mean? It's
Hmm.
college, and I wanted to like experience the college life. And my boyfriend at the time in college was in a fraternity, so yeah, there's that. So I was like totally thought I was living like the ultimate college life of like having a fraternity boyfriend, getting to party. Yeah, partying on a Tuesday. I don't know. Just being out and about. So to say that I studied in college, I would that's a lie. I attended, so but I didn't do very well. And I think what made me join the army was because I just had a weird feeling at that age that I needed this. I was kind of going down that hole where I was like, if I just keep doing this, it's not going to go well. I had a really weird feeling. So I, first thing I did was I went to the recruiting office where they have all the branches there, and I went into the Marines. That's the first thing was I went in the Marines. And I basically was like, I want to join. And they're like, why do you want to be a Marine? And I'm like, college money. You already know. You're not even supposed to say that. They're like, yeah, no, we're gonna go ahead and just sure you'll get money for college, but they're selling me on the experience. Well, there is a height requirement in the military or in the Marine Corps to be an MP. Yeah, and I am shorty, so I'm only 5'3", and the requirement's 5'4". So I was like, shoot. But then they like kept selling me the personnel job, like it was the best thing since sliced bread. And I signed, and then when it was getting close to my date to ship, I backed out. And my college boyfriend basically told me to stay, and I listened. And then after that, because I'm an idiot, and then after that, we broke up, by the way, so no surprise there.
No
Uh,
shocker.
I ended up like wanting to go see a different branch, and I went to the army and took the tests and everything. I and my recruiter was a mortician. He was
Mm,
weird. I know, he was weird. I'll get to that story. Anyways, yes, I did run into him again. But I ended up enlisting in 2000 or 1999, and then I shipped and went to Fort Leonard Wood in 2000. So, yeah, and that's where my beautiful journey began of being in the military.
I love that. We have very similar paths. I did a year of college first. I failed out. Um, then I moved to Washington, where my mom lived in the Tri Cities. Did a semester at community college, but I didn't have the self awareness that you did to see I was going nowhere fast. It was my stepdad who encouraged me. Told me he'd kind of gone through the same thing, and he was a medic for 4 years. Went to Germany, strained himself out, and everything was great. Okay, yeah, cool. So that's how I ended. And my first stop was also
The Marines?
the multi branch office. I wanted Air Force; they were closed. And then the Marine recruiter came out, and I had my Backstreet Boy hair and my double pierced ears. He's like, "Come here, boy." I was like, "Nope, I'm going to the army." Yeah.
Did you have your, like, visor? Were you wearing a Titleist visor or
No,
something
I
like
didn't have a
that?
visor. That was like a couple years before, but when I did, I wore it upside down and backwards like Deion Sanders.
Oh
'Cause
my goodness.
yeah, so
That's
I'm
funny
sure the
you say
Marine
the Air
recruiter was
Force.
just drooling like, "Oh, look at this idiot."
Oh,
Um,
I feel like they're like the used car salesmen of the armed forces. Sorry, Marine people, but they're your recruiters are they're hounds, man. They're like, if you can get paid per quota, they'd make a shit ton of
well, yeah,
money.
I don't know who I saw somebody on Instagram the other day. It was at a congressional hearing. At the very end, he told everybody there, he's like, "And if you have a son or daughter who thinks they can, have what it takes to be a Marine, tell them to come see me." I was like, "These guys don't quit. They're
No, they
always
don't.
recruiting."
Yeah, they're like, you can't take 13 weeks of fucking pain.
Right?
I'm like,
Oh, I love
no.
it.
I know. And the Air Force, that's funny you say that because the Air Force was never open. They were never there. I don't even know where they were at. And I never saw them until like I went to MEP, and swore in. And I was like, hey, I see you at the duty station that was recruited at. Yeah, they're like, I'm going to the Air Force. How come you never went? I was like, probably because I wasn't smart enough. That's probably why they never came out to get me. Who knows? But I always say it's at the time, I'm like, God, the army really must have needed me as an MP because I was an idiot. You know what I mean? So I was like, are you sure you want me to defend the people of the military? But I wouldn't regret. I mean, I don't regret it. I
Yeah.
don't regret it at all. I met the greatest people in my life.
Mhm.
And I grew up and it's so weird because like when you're in a little pocket community, right, or you don't really leave to go anywhere, you're very sheltered. It doesn't matter how diverse your
Yeah.
community is. You're very sheltered. And I remember going to basic training. One, I had never been to the Midwest. I saw my first tumbleweed at Fort Leonard, Missouri. And for those of you who don't know where that is, it is the armpit of America. It is there's nothing out there. I literally thought I was like in a country western movie. Like it was just a big shock, because it's like it's so unknown. Like I'd never been there. I never like the people that were there. I think at that time I was like I would never be friends with these people,
Mm.
you know. But I'm glad that, it really opened myself up because you get to share experiences from other people,
Yeah.
where it's like, I remember there's this guy that I went to basic training with, and he is from South Carolina. He literally told me, he's like, Chin, you the first Chinese person I ever seen. And I was like, man, I'm not even Chinese. But you know what I mean? But he had never, the same thing. He's been so sheltered that he had didn't know. I couldn't fault him for that. And it's the same thing with me, the typical stereotypes that you like hear. You know what I mean? I was like,
Yeah.
this guy's this like country bumpkin, like, dude from South Carolina. You know what I mean? Like he's a farmer,
Mhm.
whatever. His dad's like the local sheriff. It's like shit you see on TV. But that's real life. That's the military.
It really
So
is, and I think that's our superpower is we
yeah.
meet and work alongside people from all walks of life. And, you've talked about, your struggles with employment. I've dealt with it. Um, I'm like, man, you guys talk about wanting culture, like hire a veteran, people who've actually been exposed to somewhere outside of their hometown, their home state, and probably the country, and
Mhm.
literally people from all walks of life, rich, poor, every religion, every um, nationality. And you don't just find a way to work, you excel at working together.
Yeah, you totally do. And I think it's like made you like it makes you kind of it forces you in uncomfortable situations. And I'm glad that like with my military experience, you can literally talk to anybody.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And every time I meet someone new, I'm like, ah, you remind me of somebody that
Right.
I trained with.
Yes. I'm always like, oh, yeah, you're just like, okay, cool. Yeah.
And they could be like, oh yeah, I'm from Georgia. I was like, oh, I know a guy from Georgia.
Right. What part? And then you're like, oh, okay.
And something else about the military too, because my friends are like, God, you have nicknames for everybody. And I was like,
Everybody.
listen, everybody has a nickname. Nobody knows each other's first name. I think, Kidder, I just found out what your first name was when you emailed me. And I was like, oh, I guess he looked like a Kevin. I don't know. It's Kidder.
Right.
Yeah, and people still call me Chin. It's totally fine.
I know. I was like, oh man, I was like, I need. No, I'll just fix it at the end.
No, you're totally fine. You can call me Chin. Everybody still calls me Chin. I mean, I'm on a thread with some old banger names here, Beanie and Dudley
Wow,
and Brooks and Mickey, yeah, and Distrax, and we're all on a thread together. And yeah,
that's
some of
awesome.
some of our stuff should not be mentioned on air, but
Right.
but it's that it's once again, that's another group that I thought I would never be close to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's so weird. We just have different pockets of friends, but they all intermingle some
Yeah.
way. Yeah.
So we both joined before 9/11. What were your
Yeah.
early Army years like? What did you learn about yourself, discipline, resilience, friendships, any of that stuff?
Um, the early days. So I was, I feel like I was always an underdog, you know. I had a really tough time in the army. Just one, I mean, basic training is a shock, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And on top of that, we were going to MP school. So it's not like you go to basic, you come home and then you go back to AIT. No, we were like, yeah, we were, drill sergeants in our face 24/7 for like 5 months or something like that. But it's, I mean, I just, I don't know. I feel like the early days were I had to learn how to I had to believe in myself because a lot of people doubted me. And so I cried a lot in basic training. I remember I called my dad. You remember how when you go to in processing and they give you your boots, they give you you're getting all your shit before you get those shots.
Yeah.
And I had to call my dad. I called my dad bawling, crying because, I didn't know what was going on. It was scary, especially when you're like 19 years old, you're still a kid. Your
Mhm.
frontal lobe isn't fully developed until you're like, what, 25? So I called my dad and I'm like totally bawling. I want to go home. I don't want to do this anymore. My dad totally threatens my recruiter. Recruiter's pretty much like, yeah, she'll come back in May, you know what I mean? She'll be fine. My dad was like basically like, I'm gonna sue you kind of deal. I ended up, being okay, and it was probably separation anxiety from my home because it was
Yeah.
the first time I was away from home. But I learned that, you put in the work, you believe in yourself, and I had to really build up my confidence because when I was younger, I didn't have a lot of self-confidence, and I recognize that now, as an adult, where I look back and I was like, "I faked." I'm a very good, fake the funk kind of person. Make it till,
Yeah.
like, yeah, what you gotta fake it till you make it, and that was the game in the military. It was just you gotta fake it till you make it. And once I figured it out, I I was fine, But going to my first duty station, at to Fort Lewis and getting to 6-6, I was still an underdog over there, and it was just I feel like I don't know how the military is nowadays, but I think back then it was just all like you're n you're just a number, you're just a type of person, and if your, PT score wasn't up to their standard or, your marksmanships or what they look at all that, and they think that that's what makes you the best soldier and, all the physical part of it, but really, I feel like and that's when you're young, you kinda start to adapt that mindset of, like,
Mhm.
I have to be the alpha, I have to be an elitist, I have to succeed, you have to, because you want nothing more than to have support of your team leader, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You wanna be included and have that camaraderie too. So it was a little bit tough, and, as a female in our unit, there's not very many females. I mean, 20%, I would say, of our
Right.
battalion was females, and so I didn't have anybody to look up to.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? I just and it was just kinda like it kind of felt like you gotta do it to survive in a social in a social kinda way. Kinda like a Survivor. Yeah, kinda like Survivor. You're just trying to outplay and outwit everybody.
Yeah. 'Cause
So,
I mean, I got there and we had Captain Draper, but
but yeah,
I don't
amazing
think we had a
captain.
female lieutenant. I think there were a few buck sergeants that were female, but there definitely wasn't a lot of female leadership. That
No,
changed the longer I was in and the more places I went, but yeah, for sure, the Army's gotten a lot better at the holistic soldier concept, looking them maybe even too far. Like, I think the military's gone a little too far trying to be a Fortune 500 company. Um,
no,
we've kind of lost our edge as a
yeah,
warfighting community, but certainly not back then. Um,
no. And that's the thing is that, like, the term, you got to suck it up and drive on.
yep,
Yeah, you got to fucking suck it up and drive on. And that's the thing is, in when I got out and into the regular workforce, my, I mean, I was very, portrayed as like a rigid, cold, stoic, militant person because that's what we were trained to do, Like you're like, don't talk until you're spoken to. Don't do this. Show up like if you show up 15 minutes early, you're fucking late. Like, what
right,
I mean? So you do all that because it's been instilled into your head for so many years. And then and then it's hard to like have a normal conversation with somebody that's with a civilian. That was my biggest downfall too, is like I didn't know what to do. Like I remember the day I got out and I woke up at my normal time of 5:30, put on my PTs and I sat on the couch and ate cereal and then I didn't know what to do after that. You know what I mean?
wow.
Like
I know
every
exactly what you mean. Yeah,
Yeah, because your whole day's planned out. Like you basically I sat there and I just looked forward to lunchtime at 11:30. You know what I mean? I didn't have a job. I was on terminal leave. So I was like,
right.
well, what do you do? You know? So it took me it took me a lot to adjust. There's still some things that I do that, that I roll my t-shirt still sometimes, when I pack, but like some things you can't shake. You know what
Y-
I mean?
Yeah.
I use a black pen all the time. I
Oh, yeah,
will
I wrote with a blue pen the other day. I was like, "Oh, this is gross."
That's so funny you say that. I was at the doctor's office and I was like, "Do you have a black pen? Like you're the VA. Why is there a blue pen?" Yeah, that's so weird. I know people think I'm weird when they're like, "Why does it have to be black?" I was like, "I don't know. Okay, it just has to be black."
That's so funny. Oh, yeah, because technically blue was allowed, but we never had them.
No, you
But with
can't.
the t-shirts, like, my poor wife, I'm a slob. Like, I won't fold anything. My drawers are in complete disarray. It's my act of defiance. I refuse to have nice, neat, tidy drawers. That's been my rebellion.
It's okay. It's okay as long as you know where everything is. Because I'm not a neat person too, and I like my husband, bless his heart, he does the laundry for me, and sometimes I'm like, "Where's my favorite pajama pants?" And it's like Christmas pajama pants with cats on it and got a hole in it. He's like probably begging me to throw it away. So,
Oh,
but
that's
I don't know.
funny.
Mhm.
You touched on something that it's kind of what got the book going, and the book is what ended up driving the podcast, and it was that first day out. Um, and
Yeah,
I described it as being untethered, and it took me a long time, like, because it wasn't romantic. It wasn't
not at all.
freeing. It was like I was nervous. Like, I was going into retirement, like, I was ready to be retired, but that first day, that day sucked.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I can't imagine. The first day after retirement because for you, and this is what I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, you're going to be entering a workforce of people that are younger than you
Mhm.
and they could be your boss. And that's something in the military where you're like, oh, God damn it. You know what I mean? Like, you're
Yeah.
like, you want to say something and you want to correct somebody, but you technically can't. They don't
Mhm.
know? And so, like, yeah, untethered is a good word. I mean, it's weird, but when you're like young, yeah, I thought I would be like, "Oh my god, yay, let's go, go out and go do whatever." I was scared shitless. I didn't know what to do. I think I was like, "What do I wear today?" Like, just the little basic
Mhm.
things, like, "What do I wear?" Like, you have the freedom to figure out what you can wear. You know what I mean? Or like, "Wait, what do I" what do I do after lunch? You know, like
Right.
it was a lot of like trying to fill your time, and it was very like touch and go because you are so structured and everything is so blocked in this, specific time where you like wake up at this time, work out at this time, work from this hour to this hour, final formation done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You did 5 years of that. That's what I went through. And then all of a sudden it's like, wait, I remember one time I woke up late and I woke up at 6:30 and I shit my pants. I like
Mm.
jumped out of bed because I thought I was late for formation. And this was basically what it was probably like 2 weeks after I got 3 weeks, so still fresh, you know? And so but it's hard to shake and it's a real feeling. And I think a lot of people don't talk about it, but you do have like actual anxiety of like going out, you
Hmm.
know? And I was like, even like the way how I spoke, I had to like, oh, I can't use those acronyms because they don't know you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, hey, I'm gonna go get some chow, and my friends would be like, what? And I'm like,
Right.
I think I'm gonna get food.
Yeah.
So it's a lot. It's a huge adjustment period,
It really is.
and I think that like mentally too, um, it's very hard, and I feel like I think the more I think about it, I think soldiers, when they get out the army, they do have a little bit of that separation anxiety because they
Hmm.
get out, because the army is something that they're so familiar with, and you gotta when you get out, you gotta cut that cord, man. You know, it's time to go fly and be on your own. But it's so hard. It's really hard, and you gotta like test the waters first and figure it out, and then like also, I think relationships change when you get out
Yeah.
because most of my friends, when I got out, I got out before most of you guys, or most, well, you retired, but most of everybody else did. And because I got out right before 6-6 went to Iraq. And it was, you know, like you have the people, my friends were deployed, and then the friends that stayed back at Rear Dot, they still had to, work and go, they're still on duty. And I just had to kind of force myself to make new friends.
Yeah.
So I ended up being a bartender.
Okay.
What a way to adjust. Yeah, it's so funny. I worked at the country bar. Do you remember that country bar in Tacoma called the
Oh,
Same?
yeah.
Yeah, that's where I worked. That was my very first job after I got out. I was the beer trough girl.
Wow.
And Lieutenant, I remember, God, what was his name? Lieutenant Mancini
Well,
came in. I remember I saw LT Mancini. I was like, "What the hell are you doing here?" And he was like, "Chin, what are you doing?" I was like, "I'm the beer trough girl." It
he
was
was a
just
cool dude. I liked him.
he was super cool, but like it was weird because I still, I like froze and called him sir, and I was like, you know what I mean? And then like the other girls are like, "You're weird. Like, why? What's wrong with you? Like, it's just a guy." And I'm like, "Ah, it's LT in my old company." Like, you
Right.
know what I mean? It's hard to shake.
Yeah.
So,
Even a few episodes back, I had one of my old company commanders on, and um, like when I was emailing her, I was like, "Ma'am," she's like, "You're gonna call me Rachel." I was like, "Yeah, fat chance of that."
yeah,
We,
no,
we were
ma'am.
in combat together. Like I finally did on the episode itself, and it was just like, "Oh, this is so weird."
Yeah, and you're like, "Sorry, sorry." Like, what I mean?
Yeah, she's like,
It's
"No, it's
something
I'm Rachel." I'm like, "Oh no, no, okay, I got it. I'll work on it."
it's yeah, and even till this day, like, if I say somebody I still say, like, "Yes, sir, no, sir," and stuff, and people are like, "Don't," they get so mad. "Don't call me sir," or especially, women, they're like, "Don't call me ma'am," and I'm like, "Listen, that's a term of respect,
Right.
okay? Like, if you're taking it that you're old, don't even think like that. Like, it's just basically a form of respect, and that's, it's a term of respect, and that's how I was told, and that's how I was, taught is you address everybody as ma'am and sir, and you take it with you in the military. And so I still do it.
Well, yeah.
So
Um,
yeah.
what are some skills or experiences that have stuck with you the most from your time in uniform, but having been out?
I would say some of them is just like I think for me was just being aware of just like how I feel, you know? And in the military, you're just so like I mean, everything's thought out for you, and sometimes you can't really check yourself. And I think that was like something that I did learn how to do, like be true to myself a little bit and would check in with myself. And also like I active listening is something that I really work on still to this day, but I learned, how to actively listen in the military. Well, one, you have to learn how to actively listen to follow directions. But also it just makes you an excellent communicator because to sit and then you just everybody's body language is different when you listen, but I in the military always I became really intrigued with people's like the different backgrounds that
Yeah.
that you encounter. And that was something that, like, I'm like, "Tell me about where you're from, because I don't really at the time, I didn't go anywhere, you know what I mean? I was just
Hmm.
traveled where the army sent me. But I think I really liked, like, finding parallels in people's stories or people, whatever they would tell me, and it was just really interesting. Just took active listening with me, and I feel like, you build a deeper connection with somebody when you actively listen and have that conversation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
Like it's not
100%.
surface level. Like
It's
you're
what
not just listening to it.
Yeah, it's why I love doing the podcast because I get to hear stuff and I just like, oh, this person mentioned like finding the parallels. It's funny when you look back, if you can look back objectively, there's a lot of great things that the military teaches you. Like you said, active listening, like going through an op order. Like you can't glaze over,
Oh God, no.
right? It covers everything. Like it's phenomenal. And you actually become really good at communication. It's whether or not you develop communication skills. Because as a base level for communicating, military service members are great, but then you get past active listening, and then there has to be different listening and communicating skills, whether you're writing or you're speaking, your body language, different. You know, with the movie Hitch with Will Smith at the beginning, he's talking about um, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. So essentially, 70 to 90% of what you're saying isn't coming out of your mouth.
Yeah, kidder. Remember, I was in sales for 10 years. Yeah, trust me, I know everything about verbiage and body language. So, and that's also another thing too about the military is you really learn how to read people very fast.
Hmm.
Very fast, and I feel like at our age, I probably shouldn't learn how to read people that fast, you know what I mean? But it was a good thing because, you don't know who you're talking to, you gotta watch your back, you gotta, like, you filter out everything to make sure that they're okay, you make sure that you're comfortable to share everything with, so it's and I feel like people would say that is kind of a fault of mine, I think, because people would say that I'm very shut off or I have very high walls and I don't give people the opportunity to get to know me. But honestly, I don't know, maybe it is a military thing because I just don't trust a lot of people.
I think you have a good bullshit detector. Um,
Yeah, you can't bullshit a bullshitter. Come
and
on
you
now.
probably you probably have a disadvantage because you're a woman, and if you're not bubbly and cooperative, then you're a bitch. Like
Why for sure I'm a bitch, yeah.
I'm sure you can be, and when you are, it's warranted. But just that
Yeah.
the stereotype that if you're not like just super malleable and bubbly and friendly, like oh, there's no like if a dude isn't super charismatic, he can be smoky and um it's cool and like he's reserved like James Dean. But if a woman's like that, like I hate to keep saying it, but there's no middle ground. Like you're either a bitch or friendly. Like no, like she's just quiet and probably doesn't want she's heard more and dealt with dumber things said to her and done to her than most other the other half of the demographic men. And you're like, no, I just what, I don't have time for this.
Yeah. 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 So you're absolutely correct. I mean, a lot of it's just kind of like, and yeah, it is a disadvantage because being a woman too, yeah, if you're not bright and bubbly and just like Susie Q homemaker,
Mhm.
it doesn't work in my favor, you know?
Right.
So, and of course, I speak my opinions a lot
Mhm.
too, and that's not cool. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. Y
it's it's a double-edged sword, I
It
would say.
really is. I
Mhm.
lived with my mom half the time growing up, and she's a very strong woman. She didn't marry my stepfather until I was in high school, and she's an opinionated, strong woman. One of my platoon sergeants, Sergeant First Class at the time, Amber Barbosa, um, Captain Rachel Breslin, my mother-in-law. There are a lot of. I've been influenced by a lot of strong women, thank God, because I have a daughter, and
Yeah.
I grew up in the 80s and 90s, and it was very clear on what men were and what women were. And I'm so glad because my daughter's awesome. She knows her shit. She doesn't take any shit, but she is also just a very kind soul. And I'm so glad because it helped shed some of the preconceived notions or stereotypes I had, which has made me a better father. My wife is super bubbly. That's just who she is by nature. But boy, don't you get her mad.
No. No. I feel like with moms, especially women who are married, to service members, they have a different level
Hmm.
of like they have a different shield on than we do, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, don't talk shit about their spouse and definitely don't talk shit about their kids because they're gonna come and gut you. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they it takes to be a military spouse, I mean, it takes I commend those men and women
Mhm.
because to have your partner be gone for X amount of time and to run a household by yourself, especially so, if you're like at a duty station, like overseas where you don't have no family and you
Mhm.
gotta do it on your own and you have to rely on your community. You don't have anybody else, you know? It's a different strength that military spouses have. And when you come back home, you're like, holy crap, you did all this without, you know what I mean? They had to. Like they become a stronger person.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I mean, the military spouse is absolutely the true, force multiplier. Um,
Oh, yeah. Now the only ones I don't care for, sorry, are the ones that use their husband's rank to get their shit.
right.
That's that's the only one I don't care for. Where I'm
Yeah.
like, no, don't use your husband's rank.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jumping
Yeah.
back to something you mentioned at the beginning, you said you've been on an unemployment journey. When we were
Yeah.
texting, you called it your unemployment baby. You carried a full term.
Hmm.
To the extent you're comfortable with, would you mind sharing that and kind of how it's affected you?
Yeah. So it is, I am still unemployed. So it's been about a year since I've been unemployed, almost a year. And it has been a very humbling experience. I was in sales for 10 years and I was in wine and spirit sales. It was not easy at all. And for anybody that does any sales gigs, it is very fast paced, very high stress, very just kind of like you're on the go, you're moving and grooving. And sadly, and I worked for different distributors. And last year, I my job was they went through a merger, so with a different company. So I got caught, and it's too it was more for business, and I understand that, but it's hard, and I went through a very hard like how do you call it? I just went through a very hard phase, because it's hard to not take it personally. I mean, like, what's wrong with me? Did I and I think I've mentioned this to you, like I don't know what's wrong. I'm in the job market is brutal right now. Like there's
Ugh.
people with master's degrees that still can't get a job.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Or like I check every box, but I don't check this box. And it's just they want that unicorn. And so every rejection email, every ghosting that I get, it takes, you know what? It's it does hurt you a little bit. And it's you could say that you're strong and it doesn't hurt. Man, I don't care what you say because after so many months of it, you're gonna start feeling the pain, you know?
Yeah.
And then that's when you really gotta like rely on your support system. And so I have to take a look at myself and say, okay, well, now I don't have a job. I was forced to kind of slow down my life and kind of, I don't want to say enjoy, but just be present, and
Yeah.
that was something that I never did because I was too busy chasing numbers
Mhm.
and chasing a sale. And I was very successful because, I grew up low income and I didn't want to end up being where where my parents were. I never wanted to. So I worked really hard. I worked and I wanted to provide for my parents and my family. I was at the top, but it's like when you come to the top, when you're at the top and you feel like you're on cloud nine, yeah, shit happens. Reality really sets in, and it's hard to feel, it's hard to feel like it's not your fault, even though you know it's not your fault. And I think I even said this to you where I said, um, yeah, with my unemployment baby, I had to really think about what I wanted to do. And so with myself and I battled with overconsumption of drinking, and I had tried to stop. I think I stopped last year, like, "Oh, I'm gonna take a break,"
Mhm.
and then the holidays happen, and you're just like, "Oh, 1 drink, 2 drink,
Yep.
no, I can stop it." Well, guess what? It doesn't work that way. So I decided to take a stand for myself that while I was unemployed, I was gonna work on myself. I was gonna work on myself physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and, I decided to go alcohol free May 1st, and
Awesome.
I'm almost 9 months sober, and, I think a lot of it, I was forced to kind of feel all these feelings that I have shoved down for so long.
Mm.
So and I don't like to feel vulnerable, so that's why I have that wall up, but I had to, like, yeah, just kinda be present for myself, and, there was a low point in my life. It was I think I said this to you around Veterans Day, and, everybody thanks you for "Happy Veterans Day, thank you for your service," yada, 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 right? Cool. But then it hit me, and I said, "I just don't fucking get it, man. Like, I'm good enough to serve our country,
Mhm.
but I can't even get a fucking job,"
Mhm.
you know? I even applied to, like, Whole Foods, like, like, do stocking or cashier or some shit like that, and I got denied. You know what I mean? And
I
it's just like,
I know exactly what you mean. I've done this 3 years in a row, left a job and been on the job market. And as you mentioned, getting ghosted or those rejection, they're devastating.
yeah,
Like, you know you're not gonna get a yes on everything, but damn it, like, as you said, how am I good enough to put on that uniform, go into harm's way, serve my country, but I can't get a job? And I'm not tooting my own. I'm one of those guys with master's degrees that can't get a job. Like, I have a job now, I'm good, but it's brutal. And,
yeah,
I
and it
mean,
takes a toll on your mental health.
it really does.
And I and I'm in therapy and I go to the vet center. So, and I'm very thankful to have that resource
Mhm.
because I did go through a very dark hole. I did feel like, holy fuck, man, I just can't go anymore. I don't know what to do, you know? But I prayed about it. I reached out to some friends and, as a veteran, there hit up your comrades, man. They they definitely will check in on you, and I'm very happy that I have, you know, my my close friend that checked in on me and just it was just really hard, and I felt very hopeless. But I will and this is something that a lot of veterans don't talk about. We never were supposed to admit that we had, you know, depression or
Mhm.
like, you know what I mean? That's where that
They were cuss words, they were derogatory words.
yeah, and that's the thing that like that's where I said in the beginning of this show where it was like I just felt like if you weren't good on paper, like if you weren't maxing out your PT test and fucking shooting expert and blah blah blah, they don't want you. And I did, and it was just kind of weird. Like when you get to that like point where you feel hopeless, you start to play those words that
Hmm.
people tell you, And there was a point where, and I don't care, I'll talk about it, but I won't mention names, where when we came back from Kosovo, somebody was retiring and they went to go say goodbye to everybody. And that person came to me and basically was like, in a roundabout way, like, you're a fucking soup sandwich. I don't know why you're here. You suck. Have a nice life kind of deal.
What?
Yes.
Wow.
And I was like, you know, fuck you. Like, but then you're so young and you're just like, God, why do people like, is that what it is? Is that I have to prove that I gotta be harder than everybody,
Right.
to be respected? And so, yeah, you start to play all those instances and stuff. But I'm very glad that like now I had to learn how to just kind of like through therapy, just to kind of overcome all these different obstacles that I've gone through and um, started reaching out to some old friends and, going to church and really asking God about, what is it that I need? God needs me here, you know, and God has a timing for everything. We
Yeah.
don't know. Yeah. And I'm very impatient, and I'm like, oh, please, God, just, I really could use a job. I really can do this, and my friends would be like, listen, it's, he's got something for you, but it's on his time.
Hmm.
And you're like, "Yeah, I get it." But like, here I am, like a year out, like I really need, like, throw me a bone here, God,
Yeah.
But all you can do is just have faith, pray, just keep doing what you're doing, surrounding yourself with the people that love you. And with sobriety, I've lost some friends,
Hmm.
and my friends have said, well, those people weren't your friends anyway.
Right.
Okay, it sucked, but I think it worked out for the better because it made me really think and really figure out who I was, because for the longest time, you don't know who you are when you get out of the military, you know? You're just trying to figure out who you are, and then here I am, I find a career, and I started off as a bartender and then went to selling booze, and my whole life was my job,
Yeah.
you know? And then finally, now I don't have that. And I removed the toxic out of it. And I'm left with a blank slate and I don't even know what to do. So it was a lot of trial and error. And I'm a, I'm an extrovert,
Hmm.
but I have become an introvert because I've slowed down and I've started seeing like things in a different light where I'm like, you know what? I am going to be selfish. I am going to take this time for myself. I wanted to get into painting by numbers. I know it sounds
Mm.
stupid.
No,
And
no,
I
you're
got
the second person who's told me they do that.
no, I haven't started yet. So my sister-in-law got me a picture to paint, and then my husband's stepmother, I guess she'd be my stepmother-in-law, she made a custom one, paint by number of my dog by the Christmas tree.
Well, that's
And
cool.
I'm like, I know, and I'm like, this is gonna take like it's gonna take forever, but I'm really excited to start that. And it's just something that, I'm starting to rediscover myself, and I'm starting to figure out kind of like who I was meant to be, you know?
Yeah. I want to take a moment just to acknowledge a couple of things you said. Number one, congratulations on 9 months of sobriety. That's phenomenal. I know how difficult that challenge is. And for you to make that choice for yourself and to stick to it is beyond commendable. So, congratulations
Thank
on doing
you.
that. Number two, for finding your walk with God. That's a difficult thing. Um, I just saw an interview Sylvester Stallone did a few years back talking about the opening scene of Rocky, and it was intentional. And if people don't know the story behind Rocky, Sylvester Stallone wrote that, and he pitched it to a lot of the producers and studios, and everyone was trying to, give him a bad deal on it. And he ended up doing it for I think 100 grand, and I think he had $1 million budget. And the opening scene is a beautiful stained glass window of Jesus, and below it is Rocky fighting Spider Rico, and Rocky's getting pummeled, and that was very intentional. Sylvester Stallone says, being a Christian, you're going to get pummeled through life, and that was kind of his way of setting the tone for the movie. And when I'm 10 years old watching it on Thanksgiving, I didn't understand it, but as an adult, I was like, wow, what a great visual representation. And for you to acknowledge your walk with God, and then to realize like it's on His time. As I mentioned, I'm not a patient person, and I've been in that season for a minute. And just to continue to have the faith that it's going to be on God's time, and it's okay to be impatient and frustrated. But actually, the sermon this morning talked about knowing that waiting for what's in store so much better than what you're experiencing, because God's love is real, it's good, and it's abundant. And when it comes on His time, as frustrating it is to our puny, tiny human brains, it's going to be magnificent. So just, I wanted to commend you on those.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, and sobriety is something that I feel like a lot of people don't talk about because drinking is so widely accepted in today's
Hmm.
society. You talk about smoking weed, and they're like, "Ooh, and I'm like, "Bro, you drink." It's like, you know what I mean? You have hangovers.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too, is that, like, and I was, like, too shy to admit that I wanted to stop, and I will tell you the reason why I stopped, and people, like, they think it's like you get the questions of, "Okay, I have to ask, did you get in trouble? Is this mandated?" I'm like, "No, I didn't get in trouble. No, this is not mandated by the court or my PO or whatever. I'm not, it's just strictly for me." And it was because I was seeing people left and right that I, like, hung out with, partied with, whatever, getting sick and getting sick to the point where they were seizing. Like, I mean, this is
Wow.
alcohol disorder is real,
Yeah.
and they were getting hospitalized by it, and just, having, like, waiting for, what do you call it? Trying to be on a liver transplant list.
Hmm.
And I just saw that, and I think that was a way that God was trying to tell me and be like, listen, you need to, like, stop now, because look at this. There's a reason why people close to you are getting sick, and this is your opportunity to get better, you
Yeah.
know? And so I was really, shy at first because I didn't want to, people to, I was still kind of like covering it. I was like, "Oh, I'm just doing a 75-day challenge,"
Right.
like, yeah, it was always a challenge, or it was sober October, or it was always some sort of an excuse. And then once I could get over that fact, right? Once it was 30, became 60, became 90 days, and I was like, "Okay, I feel good." I don't like the fact that I cry all the time and I'm emotional, but that's because alcohol has masked all these different
Hmm.
feelings, right? So I don't like about that. But, you know, I like who I'm becoming. I like how I feel. And it's tough because when I share it with people, and especially, when I share it with some people, they're like, "Oh, yeah, I mean, I can stop after two. It's totally fine." And
Hmm.
I'm like, "Okay, but can you?"
Right.
Like, yeah, like, I can tell you right now, I couldn't stop after 2. I wanted to have a good time. I was always kinda like a party starter, like, I
Hmm.
wanted to make people feel comfortable, but it was, what is it? 1 is not enough and 1,000 is too many.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I knew, I was like, "I gotta check it, I gotta check it," and so, as time went on, I just, I never craved it or anything. I think what I craved most was the feeling of, you know, being kind of like somebody wanting to be around you and hang out with you. But really, the only thing you have in common is booze. So it's, I mean, it's been definitely eye opening, but it's all for the better. I'm happy to say that, like, I am at my best health that I feel like I ever have been. I wouldn't even say that I was really healthy when I was in the army, because I was a smoker and I smoked right before my run. So, I was one of those people. I, like, had a Newport ready, ran
Right.
the 2 miles, smoked it again, packed up a lung, felt great. So, but I'm in the best probably health that I am in that I could possibly be. My relationship with my parents are stronger, my marriage is stronger, my just everything is stronger, and I thank God for that. I
I love
really
that.
do.
I love that, and
Yeah.
I love that you're giving him the glory because that's where the glory belongs. Um, what version of yourself are you trying to grow into? You know, we're in that weird middle-aged, post war, post military career lifestyle, and the
Yeah.
future, you know, it's uncertain at times. I know what I'm leaning into, but what is it, you know, you're trying to grow into?
I'm just trying to grow into just being a very honest person with myself and my friends and just people around me, and really I feel like I wanna be I it's weird. I'm like, "I kinda should be a life coach," and I'm like, "I can't be a life coach. I can't even get my shit together." You know what I mean? But, like, I just hope that, like, one day, people see what I've done and it would influence somebody to maybe check themselves or, like, seek support where they need, and I just wanna be able to set that example and just say, "Hey, everybody has," and I think that's another thing too, is like, dude, everybody has rough times, you know? I've had a rough time, I have seen rock bottom, but, like, I wanna be able to be that person, to, like, be that positive presence, and it's hard to be positive, but that's something that I'm working on because I always looked at the how do you say it? You look at the glass half empty or half
Mhm.
full? Yeah, I think I was the other one, the pessimistic one.
Yeah,
So, yeah, so that's kind of like what I wanna grow into be, just a positive influence for people.
I love that, and you're being one
So,
right now. You know, somebody's gonna listen to
ah,
this, and this is gonna resonate, and someone's gonna make a decision to do something in their life, do a 180 and fix something, and it's gonna be because of you, because they listened to you, so thank you.
oh, of course, but you know what? Also know that, like, you are gonna fall. Like, you
Mhm,
will definitely fucking fail. I failed numerous times, but I think it took me failing so many times to realize that, like, the whole entire time I let myself fail. You know what I mean? I gave in to the failure. So, where this time around it was different, where I was like, I really have to do this, you know? And there were times where, like, I'm like, "Ugh, is sobriety even this journey for me? I feel like everything that I'm doing is bullshit." Like, I feel like my life was, at one point I was like, I feel like my life was going a little bit better before, but really, well, it wasn't. It was just masking everything, you know?
yeah,
Everything's just kind of coming to light and resolving itself. And
right. Eh,
yeah, and I'm over that hump now.
I love
So
that. I talk
yeah.
about it in my book, when I struggled with alcohol. I said Jack Daniels was my best friend. You know,
Oh
he was
yeah.
always there. He'd tell me what I wanna hear and put me to sleep. Um, my life
Yeah.
coach, we did a lot of work on integrity. Um,
Yeah.
and you know, the army talks about integrity is doing the right thing when no one's looking. We went a little bit further, and it's holding yourself accountable. When you say you're going to do something, you do it. Because you kind of mentioned it, and I've fallen in the same trap where you can lie to yourself and come up with an excuse or bend the rule to do something that is, you know, fulfilling in the moment, but in the long term, it's going to be harmful. And you know, just if you can learn to have integrity with yourself, boy, that sure changes a lot of things.
It does, but it also means that, like, you have to be 100% honest with yourself. Like, you can't even second guess yourself, and I've been there where I'm like, "I don't I can totally do this. I can totally, just socially drink." Nah, bullshit.
Right. Yeah.
It's your mind playing games, and I just feel like, it's and when people say, like, "You gotta hit rock bottom before you figure out how to move forward," and it's when people say that, it's true, and I'll tell you, like, there were times before that I thought I hit rock bottom, and I didn't, you know? So, but I'm glad that I pulled it was a lot of hard work and a lot of, hard work with just trusting myself, trusting God, seeking seeking just seeking just seeking God's word and praying and asking my friends, to pray for me and going to church and getting prayed for, and I remember I went to church and I got prayed for and just
What a
tears,
feeling.
tears.
Mhm.
Couldn't even stop it, and
Mhm.
that was just God laying his hand on me.
I
And
love
I
that.
felt it, you
Guys,
know.
I mean, that's a recipe. There's no Ozempic shot, there's no GLP-1
Nope.
that's gonna fix it. It takes hard work, determination, and faith, and just another
Yep.
amazing person sharing that. It's get off your phone. You're not gonna find it on Google or Instagram or Twitter. You're gonna find it in yourself and the work you don't wanna do and
Uh-huh.
in the Bible, and man, prayer is such a powerful weapon. I talked about it with Laffy, um, during his episode. When you're really starting your faith walk, you use prayer as a fire extinguisher. When really it should be an offensive weapon. It should be the thing you employ or deploy the most often when you wake up, at breakfast, at lunch, whenever you can, man, send it up. That's your lifeline to God. And it's not a subscription. It's not like the more times you use it, the better it is. But man, if you can learn how to pray, which just start, right? And then learn there's power in prayer. And man, if you're lucky enough to have someone pray over you or for you, that is just an incredible feeling. And
It
I'm
is.
glad you
It
got to
is.
experience that.
It is an incredible feeling to have people lay hands on you and just, love on you and pray that God heals you. It is an amazing feeling. And you hit something because yeah, you find that time. Like, dude, I think I pray in the shower. You
Mm,
know what I mean? Like, you just find time. And yes,
yeah,
it is. It's not like a subscription where the more you use it, you benefit it. It's fucking free.
right.
You know what I mean? It's free. And it's something that, like, you feel this sense of, I remember I felt the sense of relief, like just a burden taken off of your chest. You
Hmm.
even feel like your body is like releasing the tension, Like, I'm like, oh, I kind of need a massage, but I got the Holy Spirit massage.
Hmm.
So, and it's a weird feeling because it's something that I have avoided for a while, you know? I knew who God was. I
Hmm.
knew, like our times when we were younger, all the stupid shit I did. But you know what? There was always God watching over us.
Right. It
And,
God never leaves us. It's we stray from Him.
yep,
Yeah.
yeah. And, especially like I always say, for those people that have like, gone to Iraq back to back and stuff like that, or Afghanistan, like it's amazing that, you know, God protected everybody, and
Hmm.
unfortunately the ones that didn't make back, they are in heaven right now.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, I'm very excited that to continue this journey with God. It's something that like I like I said, I avoided it or I was like, but I recognized that this was something that I was kind of like needing.
Hmm.
I needed to feel a different type of love, a love that like a love beyond your parents can give. You know what I
Right.
mean? Which
Yeah.
your parents give unconditional love, but this is like a different like it's amplified.
Yeah. What
So
would you say to someone who thinks maybe they've done too much or strayed too far, um, to reassure them that no one is too far from God's
no one
love and grace?
I would say, listen, it's never too late. It's never too late. God loves you. Like if you're even curious, go check it out. Nobody's telling you to like do this right away. You have to want it for yourself, but just know that it's there. And I think for me, I knew it was there. I was very hesitant to go there. And I was worried about other people's opinions.
But
But
yeah.
you got to you know how it is, dude, especially like with our background. People are like, fuck that, fuck this, whatever. But it's hard, and I gotta work on my swearing too, but, like, it's there. You just have to open the door.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is that, like, it's it's on your time. And some people, and it's some people will say like, and it's okay to say it's not the right time. I think it's okay, but just know that time is a thief, man. Time is short.
Yeah.
So and I know that like the path that I was going, I was like, it's not going good, and I didn't want to get sick, and you know, I just didn't want to like, be gone and not have a place to go.
Yeah.
So I just think that for anybody that's struggling mentally too, like, dude, and especially your veteran, call 988,
Mm.
reach out to your buddy, and seek help at the veteran. There's at the vet center or like the VA. I mean, I'm glad that that was kind of like the first step that I did, was, go get therapy at the vet center, and then everything else just kind of fell into place. So, but just know that it's never too late. And sometimes you got to do it in baby steps. I mean, that's what I had to do. I had to do things in baby steps, it gets overwhelming when you try to do everything at once, when you're like, let's say you're like trying to like get fit. All of a sudden you're like cutting your diet, you're being so strict with yourself to see results, but at the end you fall, you set yourself up for failure. So I always, so it's good just to kind of take your time, and it's you got to feel it, and when it's time, it's time, and just check it out, it doesn't hurt anybody just to check it out. And that's what it was that I had really good friends that were always like wanting me to come back to church and stuff. And then one day, I mean, kidder, it was just like, I should go to church. And this
Mm.
church is like 40 minutes away from my house. And my friend, and she's actually one of my best friends. I grew up with her in the church. And her husband, they have uh worship called Jesus Lives, and so I went there, and that first day I got prayed for, I cried, and yeah, I've been back since, and started being more open to listening to the word, and reading about the Bible, and yeah, no influencer is gonna you're not gonna find the answer on TikTok, or, like, you're not gonna pay $99 to make your life feel better, I'll tell
Right.
you that. This is free, you just gotta do it, and the only thing you gotta do is just open that door, and it's your heart. That's it.
I love it. And you hit on time. Guys, time is the only currency we never know how much we have. So don't be don't be reckless with your time. Use it wisely. Don't count on tomorrow. The old saying, yesterday is gone, tomorrow may never happen, today's a gift. That's why it's called the present. Try don't get so lost in your job, or in things going well, or when things are going poorly. You just try to be the best steward of your time. I hate that the conversation's coming to a close, because this has been fantastic, and it's gonna be life changing for someone. I know that. I feel that deep in my
Oh,
bones. What do you want your legacy to be?
wow, that's a that's a tough question. What do I want my legacy to be? Um, just probably, I don't know. I really don't know. I just hope that I can make an impact on someone's life, even if it's just one person, you know? I feel like I don't know, I just like I told you, I was always the underdog and stuff, and I just hope that maybe somebody can just take what I've gone through, and I just, and take my word and my story, and hopefully that opens them up to, you know, where they need to be, whether it's, walking with the Lord, or sobriety, or even just, checking in with your mental health. I mean, it's okay. It's okay to feel bad,
Hmm.
and that's the thing is I think a lot of people don't realize that it's okay to feel these feelings, because these are feelings that are very unknown territory, because a lot of people just sweep them aside or, sweep it under the rug kind of deal. But just know that, in order it gets worse before it gets better. And once you will start feeling the healing and you will start feeling yourself change. And it's even like, I even notice it in myself, like just like physically, you know, my skin is more brighter. I just appear more healthier. My posture's better, just things like that. Just the little things you do all adds up. It's kind of like a domino effect. So I just hope that maybe one day my story will be impactful to somebody. And, I just want to be a positive role model.
Well, I think you
So
are. And we're guys, I'm telling you, we're batting 1,000 still. Nobody's come on the show and said they want their legacy to be millions of dollars or a fancy title or their car collection. Every single person has talked about wanting to leave a legacy of helping other people. I love
yeah,
that.
and that's just like, touching just real quick, like success is not defined by how much money you have
Hmm.
or what you've got or anything that, you know, like luxury. That's that's not the point. Success is feeling rich with your family, feeling rich in your soul, and feeling rich in your faith. So I'm very proud. I'm a rich person, and I
Absolutely.
just realized that.
I love that breakthrough. I gotta
There
get
you
a
go.
noise to make that like. "Mah, mah, mah, mah."
Oh my God, no. That's not the noise. That's like the remix, like
Oh yeah.
remix club noise. We don't need that on this
Oh, silly
podcast.
40-year-old white guy. What do I know?
You're like B-Rad from
Oh,
Malibu.
dude, B Rad. I'm a Lions fan, and Jared Goff dressed up as B Rad for Halloween 2 years ago. Greatest thing ever. It was
That's
fantastic.
hilarious.
Ah, Pauline,
Yeah.
thank you so much for coming on the show. This was
Thanks
phenomenal.
for
There's so
having
many
me.
nuggets. I can't wait to come back and listen and edit and get it out there because this is going to be dynamite.
Well, let me know when you need a part two.
Oh, absolutely,
Maybe
for
this could
sure.
be when you do video and with sounds. I don't know. You could probably play that little DJ music.
Just for you.
Yeah, it's all wah, 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 wah.
Man, well,
My
thank you so much
intro.
for coming on.
Thanks, Kidder.
Enjoy the weekend with your family, and I'm
Go
I'm
Hawks.
positive things will come around for you.
Yeah, go Seahawks.
Okay, we're gonna edit that out.
Okay.
Wow, Pauline, thank you for trusting me and this platform for sharing your story the way you did, openly, with honesty, and without trying to polish it up. Conversations like this matter because they remind us that in the real world, growth isn't loud or visible. It's private. Oftentimes, it's uncomfortable. And most of the time, it's happening long before anyone else can see it. So, again, thank you for making the time to come on and being so transparent and vulnerable and authentic. That's what makes what I do incredible and so rewarding. And I know somebody listening is um, going to have their life changed because you were strong enough to share your story. Listen, if you're listening and parts of this episode felt familiar, whether it's the uncertainty, needing to slow down, being in the rebuilding phase, just know you're not the only one walking the road. And that's not to patronize or diminish what you're doing, it's to let you know you're not alone. There are other people that have done it and are currently doing it right now. If you're struggling, reach out to someone you trust. Make sure they're a fountain, not a drain. And if you're in a good spot, reach out to a friend, check in on them. And guys, give yourself a little grace while you figure things out. None of us have it completely solved, and that's okay. If you're struggling, call 988. Okay, um, get some help. The world is a better place with you in it. Um, Before we wrap this up, I do want to let you know the book, The Invisible Veteran, is going off to press, and I will be sharing the cover on social media tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. I'm really excited about it. The book is scheduled for release right after Memorial Day. Once it's done being published, we'll have a confirmed date, but right now the tentative release date is May 26th. Again, I thank you so much for spending your time here. There's literally thousands of other podcasts you could be listening to, and you listen to this, and that means the world to me. If you're not, check us out on Instagram, Facebook, Threads, X, YouTube at enduring underscore mindset underscore enterprise. And check out the website, www.enduringmindsetenterprise.com. The book is on there. You can find links to the podcast on there and some future endeavors as well. Again, thank you so much for being here. And until next time, onward, forward, fall out.